Hello, Guyana, and welcome to Budget in Focus. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us. Budget in Focus is designed to focus and to highlight the 2017 budget, Guyana's 2017 national budget, and of course it will also help you understand how government has undertaken the task of putting more money in the pockets of our people, depending on which sector you mostly rely on. On today's Budget Focus, it is my pleasure to have the Minister within the Ministry of Communities. Of course, she's responsible for the Housing Department, Minister, the Honorable Valerie Patterson. Welcome to Budget in Focus, ma'am.
Thank you.
Great to have you. First off, Budget 2017 was recently presented in the National Assembly. I know the ministers are working really hard now in terms of doing review because the debating the budget is coming up very soon. But how are you, I should first off ask you if you're satisfied in terms of what would have been allocated to the Department of Housing so far, especially given the fact that there are some grumblings out there that some people are dissatisfied and of course they're being probed by certain sections of society. What is your general reaction on Budget 2017?
Okay, thank you, Malika. My general reaction to Budget 2017, of course, I'm a Minister of Government and would have been part of the preparation of Budget 2017. What I see Budget 2017 doing is, as you rightly said, putting monies in the pockets of every Guyanese. And the good thing about it is that it has not discriminated against anybody. So all levels of society will benefit from Budget 2017. If you're employed, with some company, some firm somewhere, you benefit because of the income tax threshold that has raised. It means that you have more disposable income. You can spend more. And then we have the prestigious VAT that has been reduced from 16% to 14%. It means that also adds to the number of items you can buy from your disposable income. I can say as a woman right off the reel, you know, our women products, they have been, you know, we can buy more now or spend less for the same amount that we used to have on a monthly basis. And that's a plus. Because sometimes you hear things like, oh, the budget is only focused on one direction, but the elderly are benefiting from increased pension. The underprivileged will benefit from increased social benefits. The women will benefit. You have more income, I hope, will come from the husbands, seeing that they're benefiting. So those the housewives will benefit. The children in school will benefit because education has had a hefty allocation, as usual. And you know that our president is very focused on education and ensuring that each child remains in school and benefits. So lots of money have been allocated to education. The health sector has benefited, and we're going to see more hospitals, health centers, health posts, and so on being built around the country. Infrastructure has benefited heavily. And lots of roads were done in 2016, I can tell you that. As you move around the country, some of the roads that you dared to drive on in the past, you're now, and I think we might need to put more speed bumps now because the roads are being done, you have more speeding and increased accidents and so on. And so all and sundry, the business people will benefit. Yes, some people are talking about the increased taxes and all that, yes, but you must have increase in taxes sometime or the other.
Minister, if I may interject here, at this time, and I'm happy that you raised the complaints about the increased tax, how do you respond to some of those criticisms? And I'm thinking because the criticisms are coming from people who have not yet taken the opportunity to do evaluations. I mean, not everyone is an economist, yes, but people who have not taken the time to do the evaluation and see how exactly they and their own households would benefit. How do you respond to that section of society?
Well, the main concern from that section of society has to do with the VAT on water and electricity. Because the poorer people felt that this will impact their pockets negatively. But as you rightfully said, some people are not taking the time, and some may not know how to really do an evaluation. And so it is us who have the knowledge to share with those who do not have. And I can say that on WhatsApp, we've been sharing even the salary scales, how the increase in the threshold will benefit you. We've been sharing because coming from the Minister of Finance, when we had our budget meeting, the information that he received from GWI says that the majority of their customers fall between $1,000 and below. He has increased it to $1,500 as the bracket. Now, the same with GPL. We were informed that of the 140,000 persons on the grid, of that 105,000 persons, their monthly bill is between $10,000 and below. Now, we are aware, let's not be naive, Malika. We know that there's much wastage with water and electricity. Yes. I've been going around and I've done an analysis in many areas. My own, my personal. And when you go around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you see some people lights are on. The back door light, the downstairs light. Some people forget the light in a room in the house that they might not be using frequently. And I can tell you from my own habits, I have to curb. Yes. Because I would press my clothes, iron my clothes every day. Now you can do all of that on the weekends. Yes. You know, 5 days a week you have to work, press your clothes for 5 days, yes. And a few additionals if you have a lot of activities like I do. And that will, you know, help with conservation. Yes, and you coming out the house, it's a usual practice that we charge our cell phones all night. You just pull the phone out, you left the charger in. You use the microwave to hot your food, it's left in and it's running. The radio, you turn it off, it's left on, you know, plugged in and it's running. So those are some of the things we can do. And if we feel that we will be affected because our bill will go over 10,000, then let's conserve.
Exactly, and it's teaching us to be
responsible,
and to teach our children to be
responsibility. You go around and you see pipes running, yard pipes running with water, children playing, the parents upstairs, or they gone out and the children at the pipe playing. This is treated water, and it's costly to treat. And so we cannot continue to operate. In the developed world, you would never see those things happening because of the cost that you have to pay for water and electricity.
Minister, let's move on to housing, to your sector specifically. Now, even before we talk about 2017 and what would have been allocated in the budget for 2017, it is interesting that we, just take some time to revisit what happened in 2016 in terms of your achievements and some of the possible challenges and how you plan to face those challenges again as we move into 2017. So let's talk for a bit about 2016.
Okay, you asked a question early on as to how the budget 2017 impact housing.
Yes.
I'm proud to say that the $8 billion plus that is allocated to housing, CHNPA, we're not taking any money from the government coffers. We are funding our 2017 budget ourselves. That's a big plus. We did the same for 2016. And so persons must know that coming to housing, paying for your house lot, it's not going down the drain. Those are the same monies that we're taking again, and we're going to do all the infrastructure work and everything that we have to do at housing for 2017. So kudos.
Yes, kudos to housing indeed.
we've been managing our funds in a very effective way.
Okay.
As it relates to 2016,
Yes.
there were some measures that were mentioned in the 2016 budget. You see, what's happening here, because this is the first time we have a budget in 2017, 2017 in 2016, you still have to think in your head where you are. So we're still in 2016, right? And we had our 2016 budget January of this year. And so there were, and I know persons were a little bit disturbed, that we did announce some infrastructure work that we were going to do in 2016 that were not done. Now there are reasons for that. And I can assure them upfront that all of those works will be done in 2017. And the work will start first working day of 2017. As I said, we don't have to wait to download money from the Treasury. We have it all there ready and waiting. And so we had some challenges that we had to face. Now, before you can actually do work, you have to go in, assess what has to be done, and the magnitude of the work that had to be done in housing in terms of infrastructure, we did not estimate that in 2016. It is greater than we had anticipated. And so we had to do a lot of, we had to go in, get our engineers, and we suffered loss of technical people in this year, which put a further strain on our projects department. There were a few resignations. So it wasn't dismissals, it was voluntary separation. Yes. And so we had some major challenges that we had to face. And let me just give you a little, because most, a vast majority of the housing schemes, infrastructure, was either absent or deteriorated. And there were some areas where allocations were done, and I know you're going to ask that specific question, and no infrastructure work was there. So I'm just going to stop there, because I know you're going to ask.
No, I know, again, despite the challenges, you would have already indicated that you would have done a lot, even and clearly saying with your own, when I say your own money, of course, I mean the
housing money. I wish it was my own.
I know you wish it were, indeed. Would you say, despite the fact that there were allocations in communities and areas that were not properly developed when it comes to infrastructure, would you say the number that would have been allocated is a significant number, a number that you know would put the housing in a better position to say that, look, we are moving forward with what we have, this is what we have done? Was that number significant?
Yes, in some of the areas. And we at housing, we knew that we have to complete the infrastructure because it is in the interest of the people. And this is not to say, okay, the allocations weren't done under my government. We have the people at heart, and it does not matter which government the allocations were done under. We have to do remedial work and bring relief to the people. And this government will be doing so.
All right. Now we move on to 2017 and the plans. I did ask you already about the budget and its contribution, but I want to know about the 2017 budget. Its contribution to housing in 2017, specifically to reducing the quote-unquote backlog that there currently is at the Department of Housing. In terms, when I say backlog, viewers, of course, I am talking about the land application. How will what has been allocated in budget 2017 contribute to reducing that backlog as quickly as possible?
Well, what has been allocated in 2017 is not only to reduce the backlog of applications, but also you would have known that we have an issue with occupancy, low occupancy. Yes. So budget 2017 is targeting both categories of people. The applications that are there, some of the reasons why we have a backlog, one, they have been, our system has not been updated for quite some time. And so the accuracy of the information was compromised. Now, I remember when I went into office in January of this year, you could not, there were a number of allocations done, but they were not processed in the system. Now, if they are not processed in the system will show you that there are so many house lots available, when in fact it wasn't, because allocations were already done, but it was done manually. So one of the first job that had to be done is the update of the system. It's not quite completed, but I can tell you it's probably about 90% or so. Now, when that is up and running, we are in a better position to accurately say what we have and what we don't have.
Does this have anything to do with, or is it the same thing, the housing profile study that is currently ongoing that Minister Jordan mentioned during his budget presentation?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. The housing profile study is basically going to give strategic direction as to how we plan for housing. You know, you just can't sit and say, I'm going to put a housing scheme over there. You have to have proper planning. And in the budget, I think, and in the President's speech, he did mention that all ministries will have a planning unit established in 2017, because planning is such an important aspect of your development. And if you want to develop in an orderly manner, you have to have planning. We do have a planning unit at CHMPA, and they are competent staff there, and I can tell you they're excited about this new approach. So the housing profile study will give strategic direction, where you put housing schemes, and even with that, you have to cater for not only residential, you have to have a commercial space, you have to have parking, because you know this whole green economy story. You have to have parking, you have to have, with so much residents living in an area, you have to have a health unit, a school, you know, all that. So the housing profile study will give a number of initiatives that will guide housing, it will drive housing in Ghana.
As it is currently ongoing, do you see what's the shortest possible time that we can say this is completed and look, this is here in the ministry, this is what we're working with, this is what we're using? What is the shortest possible time for the completion of that study, if it's not ongoing?
It is presently being done, and it will be ongoing because it will have to be reviewed over time and updated. You know, technology change, everything changed, and so it would have to be. I cannot at this point give a projection as to when it would be completed, but it is in progress.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Minister, coming back to the more hands-on housing, let's talk about the turnkey homes. People in the past year or so would have been complaining, even before then, about the conditions of the turnkey project, the homes in the turnkey project. Mm-hmm. How has government handled those problems, the complaints and those problems that came from people? And I don't know if you're in a position to give an exact figure, but how much and what has it cost the current administration to either fix those problems or get rid of that project completely?
I can tell you that the project is still ongoing. And I cannot give an exact figure because we're still incurring costs. What I can tell you is that when we took office last year, 59 of the 200 homes was just the first phase. 59 of the 200 were completed, but completed to an extent where there were so many defects that even though they were all occupied, the persons continued to complain. I remember there were issues of veranda moving away from the building, yes, the house, because I'm not technical in construction, but at least from the layman's standpoint, there must be some tie-in, either by steel or something. And that wasn't done. You had walls falling apart, doors falling off, windows falling off, roof, flooring breaking in, and the issues were tremendous. And so I can tell you, and that was since 2014, those effects were identified. Then we had the 141 that were incomplete, and even though those were incomplete, the works that were already done, there were major, major defects. So what we had to do is to employ a new project manager for that 1,000 homes project specifically, Mr. Dazzle. And I can tell you he's doing a tremendous job. Those 59, the defects are corrected. The people are happier. And the number of the 141 have already been completed. And what we're doing, as he completes, you allow the people to move in. So we target before Christmas of this year to complete all.
Wow.
So all the persons
it's a few weeks, we can say days.
Yes.
That's days away.
Yes. And we're working feverishly to get that done. Because we believe that the people have suffered enough. They have waited long enough. And we want to give it to them as a Christmas gift. Okay, so they can smile. One policeman sent me a WhatsApp message. And he said, I can never believe that I could have owned my own home. He took out a picture with him in the house and sent me. He's so excited. That's what we want to do with those families. So indeed, good yes. For him and good for all others. And I can tell you though, we have had major cost overrun on that project. Major, and we're still running. So when that project, in my year-end report, I'm going to say what is the total that project cost to complete. To complete.
Well, we'll all be waiting and bracing for that information. Yes. Viewers, if you're now tuning in, this is Budget in Focus. On this edition, we are having a discussion with the minister within the Ministry of Communities. Of course, she's responsible for the Department of Housing, the Honorable Valerie Patterson. Minister, let's move on again as we stay in the housing sector, of course. Now, I don't think this is unique to Guyana's government only. Governments around the world continue to be accused, even in modern times, even in a developed world, they continue to be accused of not doing enough for state employees when it comes to housing. Now, let's talk about government's housing policy to not only for the state employees, but of course to target low-income individuals.
I can tell you the strategic direction or the refocusing of housing for 2017, and this came from the president himself. Mm-hmm. State employees, low-income earners, and youths. You would have known that the president, His Excellency David Granger, mm-hmm. he is so concerned about the youths of Guyana. Mm-hmm. And so now we've broadened and move not only state employees, but the low income, which is the majority of the 25,000 applications. About 92% of that are low income earners. Mm-hmm. And let me just branch off a bit here. One of the reasons or the challenges we've had with meeting the demand of the low income is because most of the house lots that we had in the system were catered for middle and high income, from 500,000 up. Now, low income earners, the house lots are usually 92,000, 150,000, even to 300,000, 200 and 300. Some of them will pay, but they can't afford 500,000 up. And so you find that most of the persons, when they come for allocations, they're asking, is there any 92? Is there any 150, any 300? Mm-hmm. those were in small numbers. The only areas really where we met lots of low-income land was in Region 6. In Kilcoy Chesney, Bloomfield, number 76 and number 77 Corriverton. Those areas we had lots of low-income lands. We had just a few in Region 5. We've had a very, very few, little in Region 10, because as a matter of fact, we were only able to do 36 house lots allocation in Region 10, in Linden particularly.
And that would have been 36 out of how many?
We had about 1,900 plus
Wow.
applications at the time. In Bartica, Region 7, we only did 11 residential house lot allocated, and we had probably about another 10 for business. So we can only allocate what was available.
What was available. All right, let's talk, because I really want the viewers and the public to understand how much the budget 2017 is contributing to easing the burdens, especially in terms of low income and state
So
employees.
I'm getting there. So what budget 2017 will do, our focus is what we call town hall houses. I know you didn't hear about that one before.
No.
I was keeping that one for the budget speech, but
All
to
right,
pull
here
it out.
comes. Yes.
So we have, we're going to be doing the 25, the town hall houses. We're going to do 141 of those houses in 2 regions, in Regions 3 and Region 4. And that's where we have the greatest demand, 114 townhouse units. So that will give us 228 units. Regions 3 and 4. And I can tell you it's lovely, the design is great. Then I'm tempted to show you the
I'm going to allow you to
but-
save some for the budget, because viewers, remember too, we're doing this right before the budget debates begin.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you save some.
And then we're going to focus on some duplexes. I did mention that before in the program. And also the condominiums. And so those will take a great number of the applications. That will meet a great demand for persons. And while some persons don't believe in the condominiums, many of the persons that came, because one of the reasons why we decide to go this way, the demand for the turnkey houses. Malika, we only had 200 houses in total. And I can tell you we have over 8,000 plus applicants for turnkey. And people will say to us, I prefer to just be given a key.
They don't want the
I
burden
don't want
of
the
building.
hassle and the burden of having to build and go to contractors. And some of them shared some very sad experiences that they've had.
We can never forget our hinterland communities.
Never.
Let's talk about what the budget has in store for housing in the hinterland communities. Even though we just forget, we leave them out, but we should never do that. So what is provided for housing development in hinterland communities?
We have $100 million in 2017 budget. The entire project for the hinterland, which is Regions 1 and 9, is just over 220 something million. But so for this year, we're going to start with 100. It's a Government of Guyana IDB project. And as I said, it's done in Regions 1 and 9 in some communities, repairing roof, replacing roof, and building houses. And that is being driven by the persons living in those communities, by the Amerindian councils and the people who live there. They determine what they want, where they want it to be done, how they want it to be done. And so it is people-driven. And you will know that government's program on the whole, this government program is always people-driven.
Okay. Minister, earlier you talked about plans for projects in places like, well, you did say Region 3, of course, this pulls in Stewartville, you talked about Region 10, there's Amelia's Ward and so on. Is there a specific plan for Cummings Lodge, the Cummings Lodge community, as in, or does it fall within what has been allocated for these other communities I just spoke about?
Well, what we have earmarked for Cummings Lodge is the duplexes as well as condominiums. The CHMPA will be funding on its own the townhouse and the duplexes. And we are hoping to have, because when the Islamic Development Bank was here, we had consultations with them. And we're hoping that we'll benefit from the loan or possibly grant, because they have a grant aspect on their program, to do the condominiums.
Okay, all right.
Yes. And as I said, I can't give everything.
Yeah, I know. I can feel that you're holding back because, of course, you have to leave some for the budget debates. Minister, even before I talk about general benefit and how the new budget, how the 2017 budget will help in a number of areas, which you did touch on before. You even talked a bit about the Green Initiative and so on, before we even go there, because I know sometimes there are things that you keep there, things that we would have missed in the during the budget presentation. Is there anything else that you feel that will put the public at ease at this point in time when it comes to allocations for the housing department?
I want to touch, yes, on the green agenda that you spoke about. And you would have noted in the budget speech where the minister spoke about businesses who will bring in solar panels and so on. The housing that we're going to build from January forward will certainly, we're looking at solar panel. That will further help with the people who are concerned about electricity costs and having to pay VAT. We're looking at the central sewaging and a number of initiatives. Definitely, what we're going to put out there will be new technology. It will enhance living and livability. Persons will be happy that government has decided to build houses and give to them. So those who have the concern, about, in condominiums, we're going to, your neighbor is right next door and all that. Come on, we are looking at density here. If you were to give everybody, and the greatest demand for housing is in Region 4. And Region 3, but some persons are concerned about the bridge and all that. Now that the budget announced that, yes, we're going to have a new bridge across the Demerara River that will ease the congestion, persons are now being a little more comfortable and saying, okay, I can take Region 3. So the budget, I'm saying, is definitely geared into enhancing the lives of Guyanese and giving Guyanese the good life that the APNUFC government has promised. So more and more people are now coming. Wednesday, I had a people's flood at the office. And all the people who before time had said, no, I don't want Region 3, the house lots we had available for Region 3, they're all gone. People, and some people, the good thing is that some of them don't even know where some of these areas are. Yeah. They ask, where is Z-Lot? And I want something close to Georgetown. So everybody come and ask for Parfait, Harmony, and Luston Russ. But as we speak with them, and once you have transportation, you have good roads, and you know that the government is doing the road across there, then it's easy to reach to where your destination. And so people are more open up now with this, the promises in the new budget. They're more relaxed, right? And I can even tell you, even with the Linden Letham Road, the Linden people are smiling because the most deteriorated part of that road is between Linden to Mabura. And the government has announced in this budget that we're going to fix that road. And so right now, because Minister Patterson, the other Patterson, through the Ministry of Infrastructure, did major work on that road, and now the drivers going to let them. They're telling you rather than doing the trip in 16 hours, they're now doing it in 9, and some, the good ones, doing it in 8. Right? That road was terrible. And so you can see that, yes, development is taking place. And once that road is done, it will drive business in Linden.
Okay.
Yes.
I did ask about this earlier, but let's link the three now. 2017 budget, Housing Department, Green Initiative, or I should say, I like to also call it the Enhancement Initiative because it's enhancing our country. It will make our country look really great. Let's link the three now.
So I'm saying now that 2017 budget will cause us to achieve what we have not achieved in 2016 and 2015. 2017 is more comprehensive budget, and we are better set now in terms of technical staff, in terms of knowledge, in terms of all the answers that we were looking for in 2015 and 16. We now have it. We have a better, a more strategic direction with housing. We are better geared to meet the demand for housing. And I can say at the end of 2017, a lot of Guyanese would be smiling. We are also looking at, I must say that some of the duplexes will go to the Perseverance site too, where we have the turnkey, because this is just the first phase being completed. There's a phase, just phase 1 and 2 completed, sorry, but there's a 3 and 4. And we are going to, because the location is great, and I want to put in here, we will also look at, and this is for the housing developers, because many of them have visited me at the office, some visited Minister Bulkan. They have an interest in helping in the housing sector to provide low-cost, middle-income houses. And we are going to have the housing, it's not a expo, but it's housing solutions in 2017, early 2017. So before the end of this month, they will have all the information, and we're going to move forward. And that will give Guyanese a great opportunity to determine selection, what kind of houses they would like to have. Those who have had their house lots and have not yet built will be able to say, I can have this developer build my home, and I like this design, or need a combination of this and that, you know. So it's going to be a great event, but as I said, you know, you got to hold a little ammunition.
I'm happy that you did mention the housing solution, because earlier you talked about, in terms of reducing the cost of electricity on your own, you talked about all those persons who leave the lights on in their homes, and you know, these things do happen. What slipped me at that point is to talk about how, in terms of the design of the homes, if this would be reinforced so that people can now build in a way that allows for natural light.
That is one of the things that the housing solutions will do, because all the persons who will participate in that, we have sold to them the green agenda. And so they will be coming with all the new technology, how you can improve your lighting so you don't have to use the electricity. You can use what type of lights you can use, rather than, you know, the usual practice is a screw bulb you put in there and There is so much improvement in technology. The housing solutions will have all of that, and it will help people to understand how we can move forward. Take your costs down, yet get good quality, and in some cases better quality than what they had before. Okay. Even the materials that will be used for building. Some of what was proposed can give you better cooling in the day and avoid you having to use an AC unit. And it will give you warmth in the night. Well, we don't use heaters here, but even to that will help, and you don't have to spend money buying all them AC for every room and this sort of thing, you know. Okay. We're added to that, we're encouraging people with their kitchen gardens, right? Have your kitchen gardens. Even the duplexes that we're building, they have a common wall, but you have your own space. And you can go back to your kitchen gardens, you know, plant your stuff. I remember in my small days, we go in the kitchen garden and we could pick enough okra to cook. And we had papa, and we used to make styles as soon as it has a spot. I grew up in a yard where we had soursop. And as soon as we see a little blight on it, we disrespect soursop. Now look the price you're paying for soursop.
Yes.
You know, so we're going back to those days.
Wonderful, and it's a good place to be. Minister, before we even begin to get some closing remarks from you, it always comes back to human resources, how our human resource in our country would benefit. You're a woman, and I know you're also a mother. Use this opportunity to talk to the women in our society, our women citizenry who have unfortunately fallen to the negatives coming from some sections of society regarding the budget. And this is even housing aside. Talk to our women and why they should feel comfortable with the APNU-AFC coalition government's 2017 national budget.
Well, firstly, I want to say that APNU-AFC government, coalition government, has promised all Guyanese a good life. And that is without discrimination. It does not matter which region you're from or which community in the region you're from. 2017 budget is targeted for every Guyanese. And I think I said that in my opening remarks. If specifically to the women, I think that those of us who understand what's happening, we should help those who don't understand. Malika, it's easy for people to gravitate to the negatives. And that's not only to do with budget 2017. Anything negative goes faster than the positive. And most of what you see coming out is what I spoke about earlier, where people talk about just the VAT on water and electricity. But come on, ladies, those of you particularly who are at home, you can do so much and conserve. Show your husband that he doesn't have to pay VAT because you will do what you have to do and do it in a very efficient and effective manner. Teach your children to conserve. Women are very talented people. Not every woman has to go in an office to earn. Women have their hands. And the Bible said, whatever your hands, you find it to do, do it with all your might, do it. And so I'm saying to women, particularly those who are in the home all day, don't just see yourself as a housewife. See yourself as a home manager. See yourself as an economist. See yourself as a nurse, as a legal advisor, because that is who we are. And you can advise your husband, sit with him, do budgeting. Sit with your children. Help your children to take in their education. Do homework with them. Come on, make yourself useful. Don't complain about the budget. The budget is there to help you to be a better person, to help families. The budget will improve and increase income for all families. And you can do much more with the money that is given to you. And I said, I hope the difference on the the ceiling, that the women will benefit from it and the men don't decide to take it and go to the bars. So you have to coach these men and get them to bring the extra so that you can do extra. And let me say something. We're in the Christmas season. Don't overdo it. Spend cautiously. We women love to buy things that we don't need. I know about that. I've done that so many times. Only yesterday I was saying, after Christmas is finished, I have meat in the freezer until March. Why do I have to do that? But we go overboard. You have a carpet, nothing is wrong with it, but because it's Christmas, you want a new one. Come on, wash it and make it, look renewed. And save your money. Take your money and do something extra. So, budget 2017 is a plus for all of us. And let's look at the positive in it. Forget about the negative. They are naysayers. You can't stop them. And they have to do their job. You have to do yours. I have to do mine. But I encourage you, spend less time talking about the negatives of budget 2017. Because those are the only two negatives, So all the positive, the two negative outweigh the positive. And really, it's not negative. All it's saying, let's conserve on our electricity and our water.
Thank you very much.
Who can better do it than a woman?
Exactly. You see there, I got a response to the question and wrap up sentiments in one.
Yes. So women, let's stand out. They know when the men meet at the bar to speak, they will say to each other, "Boy, my wife, she's a conservation expert. And my bills, they even falling below 10,000 and below 1,500 because of what she's doing. She's now washing 2-piece every morning. She ensures that at the end of the week she have a full load and she washes. Use the sun to dry the clothes. You don't have to put it in the dryer. In the rainy season, yes. But in the, the sunny season, hang the clothes outside. Save on electricity."
Well said, Minister Patterson.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Viewers, of course, this would have been a discussion. It's Budget in Focus, of course, where we're focusing on the 2017 budget and how it would have been designed to ensure that our citizens get more money staying in their pockets. Of course, my discussion would have been with Minister Valerie Patterson, the Honorable Valerie Patterson. She is the minister, one of the ministers within the Ministry of Communities. Of course, that minister is responsible for the housing department. I am Malika Ramsey, and this has been Budget in Focus.